Okay, welcome everyone. If you are here, welcome. If you're watching us online, welcome to you guys as well. I want to welcome everyone to the PAC last meeting for the year. And before I ask Lieutenant Aberle for the roll call, I wanted to welcome our newest member. I'd like to introduce and also welcome Member Rodas. Welcome to the PAC. We're happy to have you here for the next few years. So, welcome.
I promised he wouldn't have to give a speech. So. Yes, welcome, Mr. Rodas. I will call the roll. Member Alm?
Present.
Member Kamina?
Present.
Member Nguyen?
Present.
Member Rodas?
Present.
Member Ruiz?
Present.
Vice Chair Davidi?
Present.
Chair Tokolahi?
Present.
Member Valdez?
Present.
And alternate member Locks is trying to make it. She might be a little late. And that concludes the roll call.
Cool. Thank you. How's our interpretation?
It is tested and our fingers are
You guys
crossed.
ready?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Tokolahi. Before we begin, we'd like to announce that tonight's meeting will include Spanish language simultaneous and consecutive interpretation provided by qualified interpreters on the Spanish channel. If watching on Zoom, you can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. If you are attending in person and don't have access to the Zoom meeting from your mobile device, please come see me or Ms. Komoda up here at the bench, and we will get you set up with a device so you can listen to the meeting in Spanish. As a reminder, we ask everyone participating tonight to speak slowly and to allow our interpreter to effectively express your comments. I now would like to invite the interpreter on the English channel to interpret what I said in Spanish, please.
Antes de comenzar, queremos informarles que la reunión de esta noche contará con interpretación simultánea y consecutiva en español, a cargo de intérpretes calificados en el canal español. Si nos siguen por Zoom, pueden unirse al canal español haciendo clic en el icono de interpretación en la barra de herramientas de Zoom. Tiene forma de un globo terráqueo. Si asisten en persona y no tienen acceso a la reunión de Zoom desde su dispositivo móvil, por favor abórtenme a mí o a la señora Komoda para que les proporcionemos un dispositivo y puedan escuchar la reunión en español. Como recordatorio, queremos pedirle a todos los participantes que por favor hablen despacio para que nuestros intérpretes puedan transmitir sus comentarios con claridad.
Thank you, sir. This meeting tonight is being recorded, and members of the public can watch online or listen by phone by calling 669-444-9171 using the meeting ID 898-5264-7245 hashtag. There will be an opportunity for public comment for those participating in person. Each person will have 2 minutes to provide their comments. We invite each of you to introduce yourselves by name before presenting your comments. And we are also offering closed captioning for this evening's meeting on Zoom. Select the live transcript button on the Zoom to enable this feature. Thank you.
Thank you. We're switching things up a little bit with our agenda. If you see the top two, the first two, the staff liaison report and also the committee reports, this is the first time we're switching this up. We're bringing these two up to start with instead of finishing the meeting with it, because by the time we do this in the previous meetings, a lot of the public community folks, and they've left already. But there's some good stuff, that we wanted to report in for the community folks to hear. So that's why we're making this switch. We're going to start with the staff liaison report and then the committee reports. And also there's an opportunity for the public comments on those two items. So we're going to start with the staff liaison report.
So this month, the staff have nothing to report on. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comments? I know there's nothing to report. No, I want to close public comments. Committee reports. I'm going to start from my right.
Sorry, nothing to report.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome everybody, and as a reminder, this is my first meeting, which is why I may not have anything to report as of now. But I'd like to thank everybody who came and attended in person, and as well as people who are viewing online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have anything to report.
Chair, I have two things to report. I'm grateful to be invited, and I've participated in, I think it's maybe my 6th or 7th oral board. I'm grateful to be able to participate in that process and to offer a community voice to the selection process. Secondly, the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods held a community forum with County Supervisors Rodini and Sackett, and they had a very engaged conversation over several community topics.
I attended an event in the canal. It's called ELM, which is Enriching Lives Through Music. The executive director is Jane Kramer. Basically, she recruits kids from the canal and teaches them classical music, which is really inspiring. And they have just purchased their new building, so they were celebrating their grand opening. I've also learned she also helps kids to get into college, and she follows up with them. And so there were kids that had graduated from her program who were placed in universities, who came back and played classical music. So it was really a nice experience. I also attended the Women of Industry Award, which is hosted by San Rafael Chamber of Commerce. It's always nice to see women in power and see people win who are really hardworking and who are leaders in our community. So those are my two events that I attended.
Hi, thank you all for being here. Good evening. I unfortunately was not able to go to a lot of the things that I had planned, especially the San Pedro Road Coalition. My husband had surgery, so I've been hooked at home. I do want to say that whoever in the city put the stanchions at the left turn lane where you would, if you went straight, you would turn into United Market, so at Grand and Second. Hallelujah. Only because people who are in the left turn only lane frequently go straight, and it's like an accident waiting to happen. I was very happy to and compliment the city for doing that. A digital meeting that I was involved in was a conversation on Nextdoor where people in the community seem to be very concerned about traffic, and I know our time for putting stuff on the agenda for our next schedule will be on, but it was very clear that people are very concerned about it, and I said that I would mention that here and that we would look into it. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that if you recall, Lynn Murphy with the Homeless Coalition that presented to us when we first started has been nominated and will be inducted into the Marin Women's Hall of Fame in January. So I just wanted to let you all know, so if you want to attend, you can, and to congratulate her because it's an honor. So thank you for your time.
Do you have the date on that?
I think it's January 28th.
Okay, thanks.
Hola to everyone. I attend in October 29 with Supervisor Rodoni in a meeting in Picowell Park for our community in Canal. That's it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. City Council meeting on Monday. This last Monday, I was able to be here, to be present the whole time, participate, and they passed the resolutions for a new site for what do you call it? Tiny homes for our unhoused populations. I think it also passed by the county supervisors yesterday. So that was a huge milestone for our unhoused population, which also highlighted the work that Lynn Murphy has been doing in this city. and some other folks, some of the social workers who contribute a lot to this work. So kudos to them. I'm going to open for public comments if any of you guys want to comment on any of these reports. No? I don't see any. I'm going to close public comments on committee reports. So our next item will be to approve our regular minutes from the October 15 meetings. So are there any questions from the committee members before we approve the minutes? Do we have no questions? Okay. If there's no questions, I'm gonna open for public comments on the last minute, which is the October 15 minutes. Any comments? I see no comments. I'm gonna close public comments. So I'm going to request a motion in a second to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, second, any seconds? Seconds. Lieutenant Abley, please conduct the roll call vote.
Yes. Member Alm?
Approve.
Member Nguyen? Member Kamina? Member Rodas? Member Ruiz? Vice Chair Davidi?
Approved.
And Chair Tokalahi.
Approve. That's 7-0. At this time, I'm going to open time for public expressions for any matters that are not listed on the agenda right in front of you. Please come forward. Good evening.
No.
How's that? Good.
There you go.
Tammy Edmondson for MV Free. I'm actually kind of stunned that I have to come here and say this. I and MV Free take our responsibility to the truth and accuracy very, very seriously. At the last PAC meeting, members of the so-called RIPA working group publicly suggested that I had misrepresented facts about the Mill Valley Police Department to this body. Those allegations came after public open time, so I didn't have an opportunity at that point to refute them. So I want to say really clearly tonight, the statement attributed to me was in fact false, but I never said it. If you have any doubts, I invite you to review the recorded presentation that MV Free made on May 21. MV Free is proud of our relationship with the Mill Valley Police Department and all the work we have done on a variety of issues over the years. We have no need or desire to misrepresent that relationship. We did not, we would not. Those who oppose the PAC's May 21 equitable policing recommendations have gone to great lengths, including resorting to a variety of unlawful tactics to negate the PAC's votes. Nevertheless, I am going to assume that the work group's baseless attacks on my credibility were the product of a misunderstanding. Too often these days, when people are unable to defend the merits of their positions, they try instead to smear the good name of the people who they disagree with. I believe that this PAC and each of its members is better than that.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ed Reske. I am a member of MV Free. It should go without saying that it is important for the PAC to hear a law enforcement perspective on the issues before it. And you have certainly gotten that from Lieutenant Eberly, from Officer Komoda, and from Member Kamina, who, as a former district attorney, was the county's chief law enforcement officer. In addition, virtually all of the PAC's presenters for the past 2 years other than MV-Free and a few city staff have been lawful law enforcement representatives or consultants from firms that specialize in representing law enforcement agencies, officers, and interests. Why does that matter? Well, one, it matters because the interests of law enforcement, like protecting police autonomy and defending existing practices, arrests and convictions, and individual activities by individual officers, are often directly at odds with the PAC's mission of ensuring that police are transparent and accountable to the community. It matters because civilian oversight is meant to counteract the huge imbalance of power that law enforcement agencies hold over communities under their control. And it matters because it leaves out the crucial perspectives of the community and of local experts in the areas of procedural justice, constitutional law, civil rights, public policy, and more. To protect the PAC's independence and effectiveness in the face of these prevailing law enforcement interests in the coming year, MV-Free recommends strongly and advises the PAC to 1. Seek out expert presenters on every issue who are truly independent of law enforcement. And 2. Ask yourselves and every presenter, what actions can the PAC take in this area to make the SRPD more transparent and accountable to the community?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Frank Shinneman. I'm with MV-Free, and I want to start by thanking all of you for taking the time to carry out the mission of this commission. The PAC was formed 2 years ago after the police beating of Julio Lopez to help make the SRPD more transparent and accountable to the community. We appreciate that members have devoted a lot of time to meetings, presentations, and learning. But how have the PAC translated that learning into actions to advance its mission? The draft annual report shows that PAC took official substantive actions 3 times this year. But 2 of those actions were to expand SRPD resources with a new military drone system and more funding for sex crimes unit. Whatever the merits of those 2 proposals, it's hard to see how either one advances the PAC mission of making the SRPD more transparent and accountable. But on one occasion, the PAC did act to meaningfully advance SRPD transparency and accountability. On May 21st, you voted overwhelmingly to adopt 4 recommendations to reduce SRPD over-policing of Black and Latinx people. Those recommendations would ensure regular, transparent assessments of San Rafael RIPA data and would implement changes to SRPD policies and practices that will reduce racial disparities in San Rafael, pretext stops, and calls for service. Some have sought improperly to undermine these recommendations and to undo the PAC's key accomplishments of 2025. We would urge the PAC members to join MV-Free in defending the PAC's decisions and speaking out against any such assaults on your lawful authority and your independence from law enforcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Heidi Merchant. Nice to see you all. Can't believe it's been 2 years. Let's think about that for a minute. So I hope you had a chance to see in your packet my email. Many times the question has been asked, what do we mean about culture? And so I explained what we mean about culture. And my public comment will be a little more not official. My degree in business is in organizational development and strategic leadership. And so figuring out the culture of an organization is something I care about. And I come here every month because I also believe that Chief Spiller understands about culture and wants SRPD's culture to be as good as it can be. So not in my email or thing like a culture. If someone comes up to you and says, what's culture? It's how do we behave around here? What beliefs do we have? What norms are on our team? If someone tells a racist joke, do we laugh or do we say, that's not okay? We don't do that here. If someone makes a mistake, do they cover it up because it's not okay in your culture to make mistakes? If someone's using unlawful force on someone like Julio Jimenez Lopez, who we all know is the impetus for starting this PAC, do other people step in and say, this is not what we do here? Because what happened in that instance was people stood by and watched it, and then people didn't follow protocol. The videos weren't watched, charges were filed against him, and it took a lot for it all to come out. And as a community member, I still have not heard what was changed in the department culture after that. What did we look into? So you'll see in my email a list of questions that come from surveys, and I would suggest that a culture survey be done both within the department to see how people feel about working in the department and out in the community, because everyone in the department has sworn to protect and serve, and whether the community thinks that's happening in a way that does provide safety, that they can count on the police department, is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah McAvoy. I serve as the vice chair on the Civilian Oversight Commission. And while it is a new commission, one of the things that I strive for is, or focus on, is the imbalance of power between community members and law enforcement. And what I hope to bring to that commission is to bring more power back to the community. And so what I ask of your advisory board is to please keep that in mind. I have lived experience with incarceration. I've seen racial disparities in law enforcement and the way law enforcement behaves. So what I'm asking of you is to keep in mind that power imbalance and represent the community and think about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? I see none. I'm going to close public comments. I want to just take a quick break, just check in with our interpreters. Yeah, we good? Okay. So our next agenda items, we have,
Chair, did we approve the minutes? Yes. We did? Okay.
We did.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. I believe we have a presentation. I'm going to let the staff introduce the presenters for tonight. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Angela Robinson Pignon, Assistant City Manager with City of San Rafael. So as noted in your package, you received a staff report today outlining a priority topic that was identified in a work plan session in January this year regarding a topic on transparency. Staff in its report has attempted to address the PAC's questions, so we did receive some questions in advance of publication of the report and inquiries related to provide clarity, context, and a foundation for this evening's discussion. Tonight, we're fortunate to be joined by two guest speakers who are experts in their respective fields and who will provide deeper insight into key components of this topic. Our first presenter is Francine Kearage. Ms. Kearage has more than 26 years of experience in public safety oversight leadership and law enforcement combined. She currently serves as the director of the newly created Office of Police Oversight for the City of Long Beach, where she also leads their Police Oversight Commission. This evening, Ms. Kearage will speak to the core elements of transparency as they relate to the relationship between the community, the police, and police oversight practitioners. After both speakers have concluded their presentations, we'll transition to a question and discussion portion of the item, beginning with committee questions, followed by public comment, and closing with committee discussion. However, following Ms. Kearage's presentation, you will hear from Mark Wilson of Burke, Williams & Sorensen. Mr. Wilson will speak to the legal elements outlined in the staff report and provide additional context on the statutory and policy considerations relevant to this topic. And I believe Ms. Komoda has brought up the presentation, and I will turn it over to Ms. Carriage.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Prior to getting started to my presentation on transparency, I too would like to echo and recognize the importance of the commitment that you as advisory committee members have made. It has been a long time coming, and I know that there are sacrifices that were made to be a part of this body, and it's very important work that you're doing. And I also want to recognize the community that does show up to also support the work that you're doing. That is also just as important. It is their voice that you represent in your position where you sit. So I didn't want to miss that. So moving forward, I like to, and just keeping in mind, this is the perspective of oversight. So you will hear a little bit later from the legal perspective when it talks about transparency. I was provided the worksheets and the information that was requested to be spoken about when it came to transparency, but this is from the perspective of an oversight practitioner, and what I like to give to my commission members and my committee members when I'm preparing them to know what to expect. Everything when it comes to law enforcement goes way back to 1829 with Robert Peel, as old as that is. So I can't move this little thing out the way. There we go. So he had 9 principles that basically was the foundation of law enforcement and the building blocks out of England. And the 9th principle is to recognize always that the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, and not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with them. And I think that it is a very fundamental thing to keep in mind as you do the work that you do. The focus that you should have in the work is how can we hold the police department through transparency and accountability to be more efficient at reducing crime. So I just wanted to start with that, to say that everything that I'm speaking of moving forward has that principle in mind. So the first thing is defining transparency in policing. When you talk about the community's involvement, and when I say community, that would also include the oversight body, sometimes there is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding with the words that are used. So the community's definition or expectation of transparency could be very different to the police departments. And you have to start with a common goal and a common place of getting on the same page about what's expected and what's going to be discussed. So transparency is the foundation of trust and effectiveness. Transparency means openly sharing information, policies, decisions, and outcomes with the public and oversight bodies. It involves clarity in communication, accessibility of information, and accountability in action. When communities understand how and why police decisions are made, it builds mutual confidence, reducing suspicion as well as misinformation. A transparent department fosters credibility, and credibility is essential for cooperation from the public, which directly impacts crime reduction. Transparency is a tool that strengthens law enforcement legitimacy and effectiveness. Transparency builds public trust and cooperation. Trust is a force multiplier in crime reduction. The public's willingness to report crimes, serve as witnesses, and share information depends largely on their trust of the police department. Transparency through clear communication about policies, investigations, and performance helps bridge the trust gap between officers and the residents. Studies show that communities that perceive their police as transparent and fair experience higher cooperation and lower crime rates. Open reporting of use of force incidents, complaint outcomes, and community engagement results shows the residents that oversight is working and not working against the officers. When people trust that the system is fair, they will engage it. And that partnership is essential for preventing and solving crimes. Accountability enhances officer performance and organizational effectiveness. So transparency is not only about the communication between the community and the police department, it's also about law enforcement within itself. Internally, transparency promotes a culture of accountability and continuous improvement within the department. Officers perform best when expectations, policies, and performance standards are clear and consistently applied. Transparent oversight focuses on learning and improvement, not blame. It can identify trends, training needs, and areas where communication with the public needs improvement. Data transparency, for example, like stop data, complaint resolutions, and training records, provides measurable indicators of effectiveness that goes beyond crime statistics. Transparency turns oversight into a tool for better policing, helping officers succeed, departments adapt, and communities thrive. Shared transparency creates a uniform mission for a safer community. Oversight and law enforcement are not opposing sides. Both exist to ensure fair, effective, and just policing. Transparency helps all parties, oversight commissions, command staff, and the public work from the same facts and measure progress consistently. When transparency drives collaboration, the focus shifts from blame to shared problem solving and measurable outcomes such as reduced crime, better community relations, and stronger public safety outcomes. By aligning transparency with effectiveness, we create a feedback loop. Open communication builds community trust. Community trust builds cooperation. Cooperation aids to reducing crime, which also leads to increased trust, and it just continues. True transparency is not about seeing, it's about sharing responsibility for the safety and well-being of the entire community. And in closing, transparency is not just about openness, it's about effectiveness. When oversight, the department, and the community share information honestly and work towards the same goal, the result is safer neighborhoods, stronger trust, and a police department that reflects the best community it serves. Thank you.
Just give us a second. We will get Mr. Wilson's presentation on the screen.
Well, while we transition to that, I want to just follow up with the interpreters for our. Is good? Okay. All right. All right.
Great.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. It's nice to see you again. I'm Mark Wilson with Burke Williams. And as you may know, this is my third time, I believe, in front of you all. And I previously spoke about the Police Officer Bill of Rights. And tonight I'm going to talk about transparency in police officer discipline, records, and public disclosure. But to start talking about that first, I think it's important anytime we have a conversation about transparency and police misconduct is to take a step back and say what laws are out there, what some do and some don't do, and what applies in the public sector to both police officers and non-sworn, non-police public sector staff. Because it's really sometimes the same set of rules, because when we're looking at it, you can imagine someone who works in the private sector, you know, the public doesn't have access to their personnel files right away. And there are similar protections for all employees, not just police officers. So I wanted to kind of step back first. Quite often we hear the Police Officer Bill of Rights. And actually in the Police Officer Bill of Rights, that's not really where there is the law that says, hey, you can't disclose certain records. The Police Officer Bill of Rights, at its core, simply provides officers the right to representation when they are being interviewed about something that might lead to discipline. Then they also have a statute of limitations, and they have appeal hearing rights. But it's not really in the Police Officer Bill of Rights that you find the conversation about transparency. Where transparency lives in California for all public sector personnel is for police officers, it's in the penal code. And specifically, the penal code says, hey, all police officer records are confidential. That's the general rule. And for years, until about 8 years ago, that was the golden rule. They are completely, by law, confidential. You can't see them. And the same thing is actually over for non-sworn police officers in the government code. And everyone is somewhat familiar, I assume, with California Public Records Act, a PRA request. Well, in a PRA request, you're allowed to get everything, except there is an exclusion for personnel files and personnel matters. So both, whether you are a police officer or if you were just a non-sworn public employee, both have a general rule that says, hey, the public doesn't have complete access to your personnel file. And there's obviously reasons for that. Maybe the public doesn't need to know every single thing that's in every single person's personnel file, right? Now, there's clearly exceptions to those. And I wanted to talk about the non-safety, non-sworn police officers first. So when we receive a PRA request, whether we release that personnel record largely depends on a balancing test. And it's what the individual privacy interest is versus what the public interest is in disclosure. And really, that's just, over lawyer speak for, hey, is it serious enough misconduct that we should release it? And typically the case law that's interpreting this sort of disclosure, really a lot of it, non-surprisingly, has involved teachers, right? And most of the time that personnel files are released in misconduct, if it's serious misconduct, if it involves sexual misconduct or physical harm to children, they certainly release that. Now, courts have said kind of the trivial and groundless allegations, maybe if there's tardiness, things that don't really impact the public, that we're not going to release those. And you might say, okay, why is Mark Wilson this evening talking about regular public sector employees and non-police officers at this hearing? Well, it's because that interest test helped kind of form 1421, which is the Right to Know Act, which says, hey, that penal code, which is that general rule, we're going to change that general rule, and we are going to make disclosable police officer records in these certain situations. And the discharge of a firearm, the use of force if it creates great bodily harm, if there's excessive force, and that does include a failure to intervene and stop that excessive force. Then there's sexual assault with a member of the public, not with a coworker. Then there is, and this is, I put down prejudice and bias. This is a larger catch-all, but it's essentially if you're showing any prejudice and bias based on a protected class in reporting, and any unlawful arrest or unlawful search. So these are the times when an officer has sustained findings of misconduct, is when their records are required to be disclosed. Now, the key word there is sustained findings. And what that means is essentially after they have been formally terminated. If you recall from my last conversations, with any public sector employee, typically before they are separated or before there's serious misconduct, they get a letter that says, hey, we believe you've engaged in this misconduct. You have what's known as a Skelly hearing, and you go before the discipline becomes final, you state as the employee, this happened or it didn't happen. Then after that meeting, that Skelly hearing, the discipline becomes final and sustained. And at that point is when these records are released, is when the discipline has become absolutely final, and in a termination point, which most of the time, if it's these serious misconducts, an officer is going to be terminated. And the records get released. And what gets released is everything that's in the file. It involves the investigative report. It involves, photos, the audio, any of the videos, transcripts from any of the interviews, autopsy reports, and any findings or recommendations from any supervisors, department heads that is made along the way. And what is interesting here, the law specifically says you have to release all this even if an officer resigns prior to discipline being implemented. So there's a pretty robust transparency framework that happens once a finding is sustained. Now, what happens what happens even before that finding is sustained. If you recall, I think last time I spoke with you, we talked a lot about police officer certification with an agency called POST. And certification is just like some of us on this panel have to have a license to practice law. Officers have essentially a certification or a license to be officers, and that's delved out by California Post. And within 10 days of the agency discovering anything that is essentially serious misconduct, and that's anything that could lead to termination, separation, any finding that could result in a suspension of their certificate, we have to report that to the Post agency within 10 days, and they can start their own conduct, their own investigation. So you really have a pretty robust transparency system that's going on in California. What happens after somebody has a sustained finding and separated is somewhat interesting. So there are certain public sectors that have I know we've talked about it here before, binding arbitration or something that might overturn or reinstate them into their job. Well, if an officer or a public sector employee has that option in their contract, then we are still obligated and required by law to report the misconduct because it's been sustained and it gets released. Then if an arbitrator happens to reinstate them, they get reinstated, but that information is still out there in the public record. So that is kind of the framework of transparency, and those contracts that we have with any union, any public agency that has a contract or an MOU with a union, they can't unilaterally change those, and they have to meet and confer and bargain in good faith to change any of those types of contracts. So that's essentially the overall framework of transparency when it comes to misconduct in policing. And so with that, I think, are we at the Q&A part?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I want to come back to the committee members for a round of questions, and I'm just going to call out in this order.
Chair, yeah, would you mind if we took a
Pay
second to?
interpreters?
Yes, please.
We good? Okay. So I'm just going to call out in this order for questions to our two presenters tonight. And we'll go down by, I'm going to start with Member Alm.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. I believe there's a slide that's not in our packet. There was one referencing 45 days. If we could go back to your slide presentation.
Of course, I think because I was trying to provide kind of a 3,000-foot overview.
Yeah.
The 45 days is just the timeline you have to disclose.
And that was, and I read from what was there has to be a request. Is a disclosure with or without request?
So all of this is, and that's a great question, all of this is in response to a request. So there is no real affirmative duty to provide it, post it on a website besides providing it to Post. All of this, all of the Right to Know Act is in response to a Public Records Act.
So there has to be a trigger from the public.
There does. However, those, from my experience in agencies, they are quite often. that happens. But there's not a trigger. There's an absolute requirement for departments to report this to Post, and that's separate.
Understood.
And then the Post so one thing I didn't go through, Post keeps a pretty robust website that keeps every officer who's been decertified right on their website. And so there's plenty of transparency there. I had a short time period, and to go through all of Post can be a whole nother evening.
Yeah, I reviewed their transparency website. It's very robust. It seems like the wheels move very slow, though, as far as adjudication or of whatever they're processing. Francine, I have a question for you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. One other. My error. Why is assault with a coworker not a disclosure act?
So that's a great question, which I do not have the answer to. That was in the legislation back in 2020 when this was passed. Honestly, I get asked that a lot, and I'm embarrassed that I don't know the answer. The chief may know.
I don't. Actually, I was only going to say that a lot of us have that same question. We thought it would be addressed in a cleanup bill, but wasn't. So it remains a quandary to many.
It's a very specific, it's not just a loophole. It's really written in there where it's very clear, where it says a member of the public.
It's interesting, something for us to bring up whenever we have a conversation with our state representatives. Francine, thank you. I appreciate your presentation and to see you again. You were at our very first meeting and you led us off to a great start. Thank you.
Thank you.
You talked about the feedback loop, and I would like you to expand on that a little bit, on what is the ideal in your mind's eye of what would be an ideal feedback loop?
So when I start certain commissions or committees, when we're kind of at the very beginning, it comes down to meeting expectations and making sure that there's a common goal between the community and the police department. So whatever work that the police department is doing with the community has to be involved in that, because that's where and who the activity of the police is being opposed upon. So there has to be a clear expectation to the police department from the community of what's expected of them, so that the community could buy into that behavior. And that's what goes back to Robert Peel's Peelian principles, that as long as the community is in sync with what they're willing to allow the police department to do, you will have order. When you lose those threads of collaboration, then you have chaos. So with all parts of policing work where the community can be involved, when you talk about policy, interaction, engagement, expectations, that's the feedback loop, but it starts with communication. So a lot of people think that trust is the foundation of a good relationship. Trust is a tool towards a good relationship. It is not the foundation of it. So you can still have good policing from community to police and back and forth without trust, because there are a lot of elements of the community that does not trust the police. Then that doesn't mean that the police can't still do a good job where they need to do it, but it makes it hard.
Thank you. You made references to studies about trust. Would you be able to share those with us? I know probably you don't have that available in the immediate, but I would be interested in doing a deep dive into those studies about building trust and how that has formed better community outcomes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Member Alm. Member Kamina? With questions?
I do. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate your time and your information. I have one question of you, Mark. In terms of the process, I know it can get very complicated, but if I were a citizen, and which I am, obviously, and made a complaint to the police department, who is the person who is deciding whether something is sustained or founded, and I think it would be just interesting to know what that short process is as opposed to what goes to post.
Sure. So at the end of the day, it's the department head. It's the chief who makes the ultimate finding on a sustained. Most departments have a internal process to receive complaints. By law, they're supposed to set one up. I'm sure that the chief wanted to elaborate on their own. But at the end of the day, it is the chiefs across the state who make that decision.
Just as a follow-up before you answer, is there ever an outside agency involved, or is it all internal within the department?
So outside agency, that would be dependent on probably the charter or the governance of the city in question. The first part of your question, it does fall to the department head. It falls to the chief of police or the agency head. Each agency has a procedure for investigating internal matters or community complaints. Typically, an investigator would conduct the investigation, and it could, in various different versions, it can go up the chain for a finding. And typically, the routine, run-of-the-mill, everyday internal affairs complaint or administrative investigation, the police chief would concur with the finding of the investigator based on a preponderance of the evidence standard. In some larger organizations or organizations under a federal consent decree or for particular reasons, there may be an outside body or an inspector general or some position like that would have their hands in that or a review of the final determination. But in the case of the San Rafael Police Department, the investigator makes a finding, and then the division commander concurs with that finding. Then it goes to the chief. After I've completely reviewed the investigation and all of its evidence, I concur with the finding or send it back for further investigation.
Thank you, Member Commander. I'm going to go to my right, Member Nguyen. Do you have any questions?
No.
Good. Member Rodas, welcome. You have any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like a little bit of clarification. First of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Wilson, for coming here and giving us the presentation you just did. If, for example, an officer is disciplined within their department, for example, like some sort of warning or anything of that nature, is that protected? Is that part of their personal records that are exempt from a public records request?
So if an officer got a letter of reprimand that was for one of those specific misconduct, then no, it would not be exempt and it would have to be disclosed. Now, if an officer did get a letter of reprimand for, as mentioned, being tardy or, kind of a routine workplace, then that would be protected just as it would for the city clerk, right?
Okay, and then my follow-up question would be, so if it falls outside of that category, let's say there's a lawsuit against that officer, then that information would be made public under discovery?
So
well, maybe not public, but it would be made available to whoever's filing the lawsuit or,
As a general rule, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then.
Okay.
I don't know if he's talking about pitches. Are you talking about the tardy complaint?
I'm talking about just like even small, disciplinary actions within the department.
So if there was a lawsuit, and I believe the city attorney is here, who could opine on this as well. But if there was a lawsuit, it certainly could be part of discovery and then be put under a protective order, or it could be released publicly.
I think we should address pitches in this context too, which is when there's a criminal proceeding that doesn't directly involve the officer. The officer's not a defendant, but rather it was involved somehow in the incident, like as the arresting officer. And in that situation, there are times, happens with some frequency actually, that the defense attorney, the person who's representing the criminal defendant, will request to see the police officer's personnel file. And there's a court hearing in that situation where the city attorney's office represents the police department, and the judge makes first a determination whether the criminal defendant has made a sufficient showing to even have an examination of the file in camera, which means in private in the judge's chamber. Lots of times the judge will read the papers that the defense attorney files and say, this doesn't cut it. There's not enough allegations here regarding the officer's conduct, which can vary, but they'll typically be things like, the crime that's being alleged is for battery on an officer, and the defense says, that the statements made by the officer aren't true. And so they want to see the file to see if there's other incidents where the officer's been alleged to have, fabricated. So the judge will look at whatever presentation the defense has, decide whether it is sufficient to then actually review the file. And our office, or whoever's representing our office, a lot of times we have Mark's firm going there on our behalf because we're doing something else. But I've handled these motions too. And you go up there with the file. I'll get the personnel file from the police department. I got it in my bag, and I'm not showing it to anybody unless and until the judge first says, yes, I've reviewed the motion, and I want to see it. And then the judge will bring it back in chambers and look at it. And then sometimes the judge will say, well, I've looked at it and there's nothing here that's responsive. There's nothing to disclose to the defense. And in other situations, the judge will say, yes, there's a document here that the defense is entitled to review. So those kind of orders from the judge are pretty rare. The Pitchess motions get filed a lot. The success that the criminal defense has in actually obtaining records after judicial review is really, really rare. But the law is there to enable, that possibility. In terms of what I think your question was, which is when the city's a defendant or the officer's a defendant, we just had a case like that involving Mr. Lopez. But that case was a little different in that prior to discovery in the case, we actually had a Public Records Act case in which the court determined that the disciplinary files were public records that were disclosable. So Mr. Lopez's attorneys had those records via a Public Records Act request. The Marin Independent Journal also received all the records, and I believe those records are all posted online now. But in terms of what happens in discovery when there is an action that isn't preceded by this public record stuff, and maybe there's a dispute about how Penal Code 832.7 applies, I think it's going to be case specific. I couldn't give you an answer of how it's going to go in every case, and it could be something that the parties end up fighting about, and the judge has to make a decision. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm Rob Epstein, City Attorney. Glad to be here tonight. Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rodas. I'll come back to you, but I want to continue with Member Ruiz for questions.
Buenas noches. Thank you so much for your presentation. Lo voy a decir en español para la comunidad que nos está quizás viendo, latina. Cuando un oficial comete una agresión con las personas de la comunidad, ustedes dicen que tenemos 10 días para reportarlo.
Interpreter, could you please...
Sorry, yes. I'm going to say this in Spanish for any members of the community who might be listening, any members of the Latin community who might be listening. In regards to police officers who are maybe have committed some sort of act of aggression towards a member of the community. If I understand correctly, you're saying that we have 10 days to report some sort of incident like that?
So if it was an egregious incident like that, we would have 10 days to report it to Post.
Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry. I think he was asking that question to ask Ms. Ruiz on the Spanish channel. No? Okay. Okay.
No,
Got it. Sorry.
that's the question. That's the question she asked.
Perfect. I'm sorry.
Now I've forgotten what the question is.
I need clarification from you, Ms. Ruiz, because I'm not sure whether you're asking whether a member of the public who was the subject of the incident would have 10 days, or whether you're asking what the department's reporting requirements to the police officer's standards and training is. Which are you inquiring about? I'm not clear.
I think the latter. I think I understood the question.
I think I understand a little Spanish. I think she's asking, what's the statute of limitation on reporting an aggressive act?
Right, that's what I thought she was getting at too,
Right,
from the
yeah.
community.
And I think what you're addressing
the
is
slide was
how much.
confusing. So, I'm not aware of any limitations period. I mean, I'll turn to Scott or the chief on that, but we want to hear about complaints that people make at any time. And you tell me though, Scott, maybe I have that wrong.
So the 10-day rule applies to SB 2. And so any allegations that we receive from anybody that fit those criteria that Mr. Wilson talked about, we have 10 days to report that to Post.
Right. But I think what Ms. Ruiz is saying is that, let's say somebody felt that they were the subject of aggression or some sort of inappropriate conduct, and they went home and they thought about it. Maybe they were scared to report it or whatever, and maybe months went by, and then they decided to report it. They can still come in and report it.
There's
correct?
no
There's no limit on that.
No limit on that. There's no limit on
clear?
time.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Y otra pregunta. Cuando yo lo reporto, o cuando la persona lo reporta, ¿cuándo toman ustedes la decisión de hablar o parar, que este policía pare de trabajar? ¿Cuándo toman ustedes esa decisión con él? ¿O tienen que investigar primero o lo suspenden mientras que se investiga? Es lo que yo quiero saber también.
So if there is an accusation made towards a particular police officer, what is the process and the timeline of you guys deciding when this person stops serving as an officer? Is it immediately once an accusation is made, or do they continue serving while an investigation is being done and a decision's made later? How does that process work?
So that's a really good question. And so I can give a short answer and then actually just give you an example of typically how this is going to happen. So as soon as a department receives a complaint of that serious misconduct, as soon as they have discovery of it, they have 1 year to implement the discipline under the Police Officer Bill of Rights. And what typically happens is the moment that a department receives that complaint of such serious misconduct, they typically place that officer on paid administrative leave immediately, because they have to. They can't put them on unpaid leave without a hearing. So they put them on unpaid leave. They initiate the investigation, whether it's internally with their internal affairs department, or they do have the option of hiring an outside investigator. They conduct the investigation that can take anywhere from a month to a little bit more. Then they have what's called a Skelly hearing for the officer. Then they can issue the discipline, and that can take anywhere from, that whole process can be as quick as 8 weeks, can take several months, depending on how many witnesses there are, how complicated the fact pattern is. But as soon as the department discovers it, they have 1 year to initiate discipline and report it to Post. Now, Post can if this is what you're going to say. Post can decertify them after the statute of limitations.
I just want to add, having been involved in more than one of these, one would think that it should go pretty quickly, but it doesn't always go quickly. And that's because the investigator, whoever it is, has to conduct all of the interviews pursuant to a specific format under the law. And the police officers who might be interviewed as a part of it are entitled to have representation there. So there's oftentimes other attorneys involved. Schedules have to be coordinated, so it can take a while for it to play out. But Mark's right. I mean, oftentimes, if the nature of the charge is significant, the person's going to be taken off work right away. And they still get a paycheck until there's a determination made whether they're going to, their employment's going to be terminated. So, but we've been frustrated at times when the process takes longer than we wish it would, but it's a human process that can sometimes involve a lot of people coordinating schedules in order to get the interviews done. Then the investigator has to write up a report, the report has to get reviewed, and then a decision has to be made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ruiz. I want to come back to Vice Chair Davidi for questions.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson, thank you for your presentation. I have a question for Ms. Carich. Is that how you pronounce your name? Francine? Okay, Miss Francine. Very formal. Wanted to thank you for your presentation. Thank you for defining transparency, its theory and origin. I'm more interested in its application because this is our second year here. I serve as a vice chair. My next role could potentially be the chair. We'll find out tonight. But do you have any recommendation or feedback? How do you apply it? Because you served on this oversight at Long Beach. I understand it's exciting, has its challenges. I want to hear your advice. What can we do here? How can we elevate this committee? How can we do more? So I want to more listen to your feedback as far as what has worked for you.
I will try and make this slightly summarized because it's a lot deeper than I can tell you in the few minutes,
yes, sure.
For the sake of everybody else that's listening. There is work that needs to be done by the members. You represent a larger neighborhood, a larger community. It's not really about your own interests. You are a key piece of representing the people who may not have as loud a voice or the platform to speak it. So it is very important that you engage your community. It goes beyond, if you will, going to meetings, and I'm not trying to downplay being at meetings because it is important that you're present and that people know that you exist, but you also have to get out into the community to understand the concerns. Where a lot of commissions and committees that I have dealt with over the years have roadblocks is because they narrowly focus just on police complaints, or they narrowly focus just on uses of force. And when you have smaller departments, it may have a lot more to do with the engagement between the police department and the community that might not have any complaints to the level that the committee can get involved, or even uses of force. So the community's perception of the police department that serves them is what you have to focus on. How do they think they're being serviced by that department? Do they feel respected? Do they feel heard? Do they feel like it's a safe place for them to be themselves, their authentic and genuine selves? And if there is a gap, because a lot of people assume that the police department knows where they're falling short, and they don't always recognize that. So you have to be the voice of the people, and the only way you can be a voice is if you're engaged in the community.
Thank you so much. Very helpful. Do you have any example of how you do out in the community? Is there events that you've done at Long Beach that you're like, this really works to bring the public, the police? How can we build this bridge?
Surveys help sometimes. You have to recognize with every mode of communication, there's going to be some areas that people won't access that. If people aren't comfortable coming to public events, especially in this political climate. Some people don't want to be out in public. They don't want to have their name on papers. You have to find a workaround. So just be mindful of what's going on in the world, if you will, and you can kind of pick up the charge for some issues because you can just tell what's happening and figure out how you can help those individuals still engage the police department if they're in need without being in fear. And that's something that I'm working on right now, let's say with my commission, because there's a lot of concerns around immigration, especially down in Southern California. You might have individuals that are victims of crime who just will not call the police because they don't separate, the two entities and their safety. So we're trying to help the police department have better communication to separate themselves as well as response, different ways. So you just have to, as soon as you think you figure it out today, something will be different tomorrow. So you have to be fluid.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Vice Chair Davidi. I know, you good? Okay. I have questions, but before we go into the public comments, there's two sides of the questions. I think the first one, you just answered that, because, I'm looking at our outside bridge between the committee members and the communities. You did mention a lot of the elements, very important elements of, that builds on sort of like highlighted transparency to the outside. You mentioned clarity, accessibility, accountability, which helps build public trust, which is like, we don't know where that trust is right now. So you sort of like touch on that side when you answer the Vice Chair Davidi's questions. My concern is that I want to see on the other side, internally on the police force, how can we do the same inside and then bridge that to the outside, to the communities? Because we're trying to build both sides, right? I do not want to just focus on one side. We're like, okay, we'll just build our relationship with the communities. No, I want to see the change inside too, because that comes the culture. There comes a lot of other questions, other concerns. What can we do to start with? I'm sure like we're going to need some baby steps. We have to take baby steps and then build on that.
I appreciate you recognizing that. It definitely has to be equally yoked, and it is not one-sided. One of the things that I did when I was working with Sacramento is to start very early. This is a smaller department, so it's a little bit different. Sacramento typically would have an academy of 50 to 60 new officers sometimes, and very early on in their academy training, I would go in and speak to them, bring community members with me, because you have, especially in this day and age, you have new officers that have very little, no disrespect, they don't have very good social skills. They haven't been around people outside of their very small bubble of friends sometimes. They haven't left very far to go to school. It's a lot of different challenges that police departments face, and there could be fear involved of what their expectations are going into a community, being around people that they've never been around in their entire life. And so it's almost recognizing challenges that the police department has and figuring out how to help them be better. So you can't always assume that the issues that are in the community when it comes to transparency, community communication, and relationships is a chosen path. So it's helping the police department sometimes figure out how they can be better with your assistance, because they do need the help. So for you all, engaging the officers, even when I'm in Long Beach, quite often it will happen, officers do not talk. I think sometimes they're afraid to get in trouble. They'll have calls, they'll just kind of stand there. That's very counter to what the culture I grew up in, where you really want to engage people and have conversations. So it's figuring out where their shortcomings are and then try and help them come up with a solution to do better. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. I know and I can see why we started to do a lot of the members, the committee members. We've been doing a lot of ride-alongs with the local BD, and that's like the closest to us to hear a lot of the times like the personal experience within work, and sometimes they share their stories of how they get here, and a lot of those stories like a lot of people doesn't know, but we get sort of like front seat to hear them share those. I mean, like we're doing something. I know we've worked with the local BD here to do something, and we're starting something. Like I said, there's some baby steps somewhere that we're starting. We just have to keep building. Thank you.
And figure out what the community wants, what they're interested in, and figure out how that intersects with the work of the police, because quite often, like I mentioned earlier, commissioners think that their focus has to be narrowly on misconduct, and a lot of times it has more to do with engagement. You will notice that some departments have very few complaints a year, but there's still a lot of concerns in the community that doesn't rise to the level of, we have a complaint about a particular officer, but we have concerns about, it could be safety. You guys were mentioning earlier about traffic. Those are also things that possibly the committee could get involved with, assisting the police department, hear the concerns of the community from people who would normally come out and have those conversations directly. And that's helpful for them to be more responsive and effective to the community.
Thank you. With that, I would like to...
I was just going to note that Member Valdez, if she had an opportunity to speak as well.
Yeah,
okay.
I had a question, but my question has been answered, but thank you for noticing that. Thank you. Yeah.
So we good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had the same question as Member Ann about the coworker. Yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that one? I know it's not my wheelhouse, but originally when that particular law came out, it said sexual activity. It didn't say sexual assault. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So it had to do more with engaging in any type of sexual activity, and I think that's why they changed it from coworker to community, and one was excluded. And I'm not saying that some officers get involved with certain activities at work, but so I can look that up for you, and I'll send it over to Angela. But the language in it changed.
I would be
'Cause
remiss
he's the
to say
boss.
that officers are not allowed to engage in any kind of that type of activity on duty. That
Would
would
get
fall
you
under
fired, but
SB2,
it's not
yes.
1421.
Yeah.
In actuality, that is actually covered in our
Thank you, guys. Thank you, committee members, for all the questions. Thank you, presenters, for answering those questions, and also the staff. With that, I'd like to open for public comments on these two presenters. Any comments?
Come here after all day at work to have no comments. So thank you. I know we had been interested in talking about transparency. I feel like some of the talk was in such general terms that it's hard to operationalize. So I did appreciate Member DeViti's question and your response, Francine, to that. And I just, again, think about Julio Jimenez Lopez, right? Without transparency, there's no accountability. Without accountability, there's no justice. And people responded in our community because there wasn't any transparency or accountability. That's why people were protesting in the streets. We saw someone get brutally beaten for drinking beer with his friends after work. And I think for me now around transparency, I'm terrified that he was acquitted and that a yacht law lawyer who did the arbitration or whatever he was entitled to get his job back, like, where is he? where is Brandon Nail? Where's the transparency around that? Because I have heard from community members that they're afraid to have him with weapons on the streets in San Rafael. We all saw the video. We all don't agree with it. There were statements from the city that that's not how we work with community. So let's talk about transparency for that. And I also want to say, I've heard members of this committee say people should come tell us what they think. Like, we hear the same people all the time. I think what you just heard from Francine, who has almost 3 decades, she started when she was 2, of work in this area, is that you need to go out and talk to people. It's not about like a town hall or a community event. It's you represent different neighborhoods in San Rafael. You need to go say, what do you think about the police? Do you think they're transparent? What one thing could they change that would make it better for you in your life? Do you feel safe here? What does safety mean to you? So I hope you hear this as your charge to get out there and talk to people.
Thank you.
Hello again. Francine, I also wanted to bring up a part that I really appreciated that you said is actually 2 parts. Just get out there in the community, like Heidi said. You know, get to know your community members and how they view the police department, not in an official town hall forum or an official capacity where people might be hesitant to bring up certain things. Again, especially where the issue of immigration is weighs so heavy on different parts of the community, especially in San Rafael. And oh God, there was the second one that I forgot. It escaped me. But yeah, that was my main point, is just to get out in the community, get to see and hear what people feel like on a personal level. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I see no other comments. I'm going to close public comments. Any response from the staff? No? I think we're good. Comments from committee members, and I'm going to go down on this order. I'm going to start Member Alm.
I have no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Alm. Member Kamena.
I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Member Nguyen.
Sorry, I don't have any comments.
Thank you. Member Rodas.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments thus far, and I think community engagement is going to play a vital role and function in really building transparency between our residents and our police department. And after tonight, I'm actually more motivated to go out there and speak to the residents of my neighborhood and my community and see what we could do better, and just see how we can lead to a healthier and stronger city.
Thank you. Member Ruiz. Any comments?
I have a question. Tengo una pregunta. ¿El departamento de policía tiene entrenamientos como para que ellos también puedan decir cuáles son los problemas que les afecta a ellos cada vez que salen a la comunidad a trabajar? ¿Ustedes, los directores o representantes de ellos, los escuchan? ¿Tienen ellos la oportunidad de desahogarse o decirles a ustedes qué es lo que ellos necesitan y ustedes les ayudan a ellos, los escuchan? Esa es mi pregunta, mi última pregunta. Gracias.
My final question would be, do police officers have some form of training or program or protocol to where they have the ability and freedom to maybe express themselves about their concerns, their worries, things about that might be happening to them while they're on the job? And if where they could maybe just vent a little, maybe to the higher ups, can they do that? Do they have the ability, the freedom to do that? And if so, are they really heard? Is there anybody that's really listening? If there's any changes or anything that they need done to make their jobs a little bit easier?
So I'll respond to that. There's a couple of, I heard a couple of issues in there. Number one is training. And number two is an officer's ability to communicate challenges, concerns, or the ability to vent on any issues that they're dealing with. So I am of the opinion that we're very training heavy. We have a lot of mandates that are imposed by post that we're required to meet. There are several training opportunities that we take advantage of based on what we're seeing locally. We have city-wide training initiatives. So there's a lot of training at a lot of different levels that all of our staff are required to participate in, from the chief all the way down. So there's a lot of training. As it relates to issues of concern, safety is a significant issue that we're all concerned about. We have the ability to share concerns or issues with our supervisor. As it relates to, venting or communicating concerns, some of this we talked about in the wellness presentation when we were talking about culture. We have a peer support program. We have a licensed clinician on contract. There's a lot of varied levels of resource for our staff, both professional staff and sworn staff, if an officer or a member of the organization wants to communicate any of those. So in a nutshell, I'll just offer there's a lot of resources and a lot of training responsive to what a typical San Rafael police officer encounters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Davidi?
Yes, thank you. For me, these ride-alongs have been probably one of the most influential tools as far as learning and seeing what goes out there. Sometimes when you hang out with the firemen, they get the 5 finger, and then when you're in the police car, you get the 1 finger, And this whole notion about how can we build trust, how can we bring people together. One incident, I was on a ride-along, we responded to a 5150 situation, danger to self. The police officer couldn't really get past the door, and then we called the SAFE team, and they came in, younger people, not in uniform, just opened the door, and they started talking, and so I think that first impression kids make with police is very important. And how do we build that trust? The first experience someone has with police. I serve on my HOA block, and one of the things we've done is we invited the police, Lieutenant Eberly, and the fire department, people interact in a casual setting with people in uniform where they're not being in trouble, So I think just changing the narratives and also doing it in a way that's accountable, and we're doing our job. But I feel this year of kind of going out in the community and your presentation has really inspired me and hopefully most of us here. So just want to thank you again and just kind of share with you kind of where I'm at. But thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you guys both for reminding us, and I think we all understand now, taking that baby steps of community engagement, getting out there, walk with them, and even sometimes we don't have to ask questions or, we just have to be there to listen to whatever they say and take it in, So personally, I wanted to thank you guys for reminding us to do that. It's the easiest thing we can do. That way, maybe we can start rebuild that trust, that community trust between the committee, the community, the local BD, and all the legal advisors, all the legal folks. Because we need everyone to rebuild this whole thing together, Yes, there was an issue. Yes, there's space to move forward. Yes, all of us need to work together. and we're going to take that steps. So thank you guys for tonight's presentation.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I
It's
think
okay.
you might have forgot Committee Member Valdez again.
I'm in trouble already.
Just thank you both for your presentation, and I really love the last part that when you answer Member Davidi's question, how we can improve, and I think is something that probably we need to do more, like go, not like in events like you mentioned, maybe like a door-to-door or like survey or a conversation with the neighbors. I really like that part, and thank you to Mark Wilson also for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. How's our interpreters?
Good.
We good?
Yeah, keep this guy coming back.
Okay, good.
Okay, if we could just take a quick moment, and I will switch to the interpreters before we move on to our next agenda item.
All right, thank you.
Chair, we can proceed.
Okay, we good to continue? So the next item in our agenda is the chair and vice chair selection. And I think I'm going to.
Thank you, Chair Tokalahi.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Tokalahi. My presentation is going to be very, very brief. I'd like to submit it based on the staff report. This is our third time, hard to believe, picking a chair and a vice chair. I just want to reiterate the importance of the chair and the vice chair, and at the same time, thank you, Mr. Tokalahi, for your last year of service as chair, and Mr. Davidi for your last year as vice chair. According to the San Rafael Boards and Commissions rules and regulations, boards and commissions rules and regulations, the vice chair shall serve as the chair in the following year and shall be appointed as such at the last meeting of that year's, at the last calendar year's meeting, which would be tonight. So with that, I would suggest if there's any questions, we can move forward with the questions. If not, we can go into public comment, and then discussion is where we would make our suggestions and motions.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to any questions from committee members, and I'm going to start with Member Valdez. Please, I got you this time.
My question will be like, if Member Davidi can be the chair, or is not that like possible?
It is recommended in the San Rafael Boards and Commissions rules and regulations that he move into the chair position.
Member Rodas?
No comments or questions.
Member Nguyen? No questions?
No.
Member Al?
Chair, I have no questions.
Thank you.
No questions.
Anybody? Any other questions? No? Since we don't have.
Ms. Locke?
I regret that my car couldn't get me here earlier.
We're sorry to hear that.
But I'm here. Thank you. My question is, in the first year, a clarification for the BCC. In the first year, the chair and vice chair were selected, and that the chair, the vice chair automatically becomes the chair the following year. Going forward, I wasn't clear what you were saying. It's a recommendation, but it's not automatic.
It's your
We're doing it
committee.
right now.
It's your committee, Ms. Locks, and it does say in the rules and regulations that the vice chair shall become the chair And it'd be staff's recommendation to go with the board's,
shall
boards
each
and
year?
commissions, rules and regulations. Yes.
Does that help? We good?
I didn't know about the shall. I think recommended, I didn't know about the shall. That's what I was asking.
Shall become.
Shall become. So that means, I'm
Yes,
asking,
it's
each
our
and every year, the vice chair will become chair.
Yes. It's not spelled out in the bylaws of the PAC.
No, 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 I
But
know.
in the boards and commissions, rules and regulations.
All right.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the bylaws. Sorry.
No, it was
Thank
not in
you.
the bylaws.
Okay. If there's no questions, I'm going to invite public comments if we have any other public comments regarding the chair, vice chair. No? I see no comments. Oh, here we go. We got you. Last one, as always.
Yeah. I guess I would discourage the rolling, like, just because someone's the vice chair doesn't necessarily mean they should be the chair. Like, I would encourage you all to think about contributions of each member and what each person can bring. I know you all have specific interests in communities that you can talk to. Kennedy wrote us, I want to welcome you. It's nice to have a new youth member. It was hard to see Marilyn find her voice at the very end of her 2 years. And it's nice to see you contributing and, you know, not waiting to get comfortable or see what's going on, like talking already. So I guess I always kind of recommend amplifying a youth voice on the commission because it's a very unique perspective. I know that there's different, I know Darlin's really involved in her neighborhood with Boy Scouts and Promotoras and different things. I know that Darush, you have mentioned being involved in the Jewish community. I know Fatai, you have a special love in your heart for unhoused people, and you spoke to that on Monday, that they're definitely a group you could speak to about how they perceive the police department and how that feels. And so I would just encourage you all to think about what different people bring and what their leadership in the chair and co-chair roles could bring to, you know, take us into the next stage of year 3 of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm going to close public comments. I want to come back to the committee for comments regarding this agenda item. I'm going to start with to my left. I know you're ready.
Are you asking for a recommendation for nomination?
Yeah, it's up to us.
According to the BCC, and thank you, I did clarify. According to the BCC, it's indicated that Member Davidi will be assuming the position of chair. And so, having said that, I support that decision, or that procedure.
Okay. Member Ruiz, do you have any comments?
Davidi President.
President, wow.
Yeah. And
Chair.
whatever, chair.
Chairperson.
And Daniel.
Vice chair.
Vice chair. Vice chair. Thank you. for
Okay,
the
so we have
clarification.
one, okay.
Are we doing the vice chair as well?
Vice.
I thought we were doing just the chair to start.
Just the chair.
Doing just the chair to start.
Sure. You could do it however you want. You can make
Whatever.
one motion if you all decide who you want to be as vice chair, or you could do it individually.
Yeah.
If it pleases the committee, I would suggest anybody go down the line to see who wants to be the next vice chair.
Right.
And then you can make a motion on that.
Yeah, we're just going to go down the line and see. Because
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everyone, you know, say what,
Mr. Chair.
yeah.
There are only a few people.
Yep.
There are only a few people who are eligible. And So asking everybody would they want to be chair, it's not appropriate. There are only certain people that can be eligible.
No,
Those-
it's
those-
not asking everyone to be chairperson. Like, I just want to hear everyone's opinion. Yeah.
I'd make a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. I move that Vice Chair DeViti be moved into the chair position and that Daniel become our vice chair.
Okay. Now there's a motion. There's a motion for Vice Chair DeViti to be the next chairperson and Member Alm to be the vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second me.
Okay.
Chair, I
Ruiz.
would like to make a comment. I'm humbled that my peers on this committee would like to see me be vice chair. Personally, my long-term plan is I would like to do it later in this committee as we go through our tenure. I feel I would most enjoy being able to lead this committee, but I feel I could best serve this committee later down the road. My personal recommendation, I appreciate what the committee says. When we started this committee, I recommended Member Alvarez to be our vice chair, our youth member, and I would like to make a motion to make our youth member our vice chair. I've already found Mr. Rodas to have a very strong voice, and I would like to hear it continue.
Okay. We have two motions on the table now.
Well, that wasn't a motion. He didn't make a motion.
It was just a comment.
Oh, sorry, my bad. So that was just a comment. Okay. I'm just too excited to hand it over. So we still have that one motion of Vice Chair DeViti to be the chairperson and Member Alm to be the vice chair.
Chair, if I may.
But then,
Can I ask a clarifying question to Mr. Alm, Member Alm?
yes.
What I heard your words were recommendation. Are you intending to make a motion for that? For the youth member to become vice chair?
Yes, that is my motion personally, and my comment of humbly hearing from my peers, but I would like to decline it at this time.
But before we move on, and I'm so glad the city attorney is in the room tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know what we do when there's two motions. Could we?
One at a time.
Yeah, we can take them one at a time. You should
Right.
take comment from anybody that wants to comment on the two motions that are pending. There's no second yet on Mr. Alm's motion. And, if the first motion were to be adopted by the committee over his objection, that would be a sort of an uncomfortable conclusion because he's just told you he doesn't really want to do it. So I don't know how that's going to affect people's vote, but you should take a vote on the first motion unless the person who made the motion wishes to withdraw it on the ground that Mr. Alm said he doesn't want to do it. And then you could just consider the second motion if the second motion gets a second, which it currently doesn't have.
Thank you for the clarification.
I'm happy to withdraw my motion in regard to Mr. with great sadness. And I'll just confine my motion to moving that Mr. DeViti become the chair, and perhaps there can be a conversation about vice chair.
That's called a modification of your motion.
The motion.
As modified.
Okay. I still want to hear from the remaining members.
Just a second.
No?
Let's just pass the
I
first
know.
one and then go back. Just get
So she just had,
the motion.
Chair Tokalahi, if I could just make a suggestion, if you want, if somebody seconds Ms. Kamina's motion and then we take a vote right after that,
okay.
then we can get into any other discussions.
All right.
Chair, I will second Ms. Camina's motion to move Member DeViti forward to chair.
So you should invite any further discussion on that motion at this time, and if there's no further discussion, then you can take a vote on the motion to have Mr. DeViti be the chair next year.
Okay, so we're going to take a vote, and I'm going to ask Lieutenant Abley to call the vote on.
I think, and I apologize, it's all new to us, but thank the city attorney. Is there any other discussion on that motion as Mr. Davidi being the chair for 2026?
I see none.
I will call roll. Member Alm?
Aye.
Member Nguyen?
Aye.
Member Kamina? Member Rodas?
Aye.
Member Ruiz?
Aye.
Vice Chair Davidi?
Aye.
Chair Tokolahi?
Aye.
Congratulations, that motion passes.
That's 6. Congratulations, Vice Chair. Now you're the chairperson. Okay, so now we have to come.
I want to make are we the vice chair now, or is that where we're at right now?
Yes.
Can I make a recommendation?
Motion or recommendation?
Maybe a recommendation.
Sure.
I really wanted Daniel on to take this vice chair.
Yes, please.
You bring so much clarity. You're just passionate, not just here outside. You know when to pull the alarm. You just kind of like know how to be neutral. You know, like you really speak your mind. I really want you to take this with me if you can, but I don't want to. Well, I want to be respectful of where you're at. As far as if there's a plan B, I want us to think about it. I'm highly impressed by Mr. Rodas. I am really just want to get to know him more before we kind of move into having him be a vice chair. I definitely think there's definitely a seat for him to play more of a leadership role. But if Daniel doesn't want to take it, I think we should reflect before we jump to who's going to be the next vice chair.
Member Davidi, I appreciate that. And I guess just to give some transparency to my thought processes, as committees and commissions go forward, there can be a lack of urgency, complacency, and for me personally, I would like to see my future in a leading role here when we are a little bit further down. I would like to take that, what you just said, and when we may need it a little bit in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the only other recommendations or name recommended for the vice chair is our youth rep, Member Rodas. Do we have any other name or recommended to?
I must say, I've asked Darlene, I mean, I don't think she wants to, but I really want you to consider as well. I know you say you don't speak English, but maybe that's why you should do it. We support you. Darlene, you'd be great at it. I would, we got you, girl. No, yes, am I being?
We'll make a motion to.
I'll make, no, first.
I would like to be, but it's scary for me because when he going to miss the meeting, I have to do the meeting.
Yes.
And I don't speak English very well.
I do.
Speaking in Spanish so well.
Yeah, Ms. Ruiz, I just want to say that you have 2 tables of support here to support you through the meeting to make sure that you're successful. So we would never let you do anything totally by yourself. If you could always lean on anybody from the 2 tables in front. If you had any questions throughout the meeting, we will help you out. You also have a great committee member amongst your peers that they will also not leave you high and dry and help you out and assist you in any way that you want it.
I just want to add, if the only reason you're not wanting to do it because of your English, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to encourage you to definitely take it on because you'd be great at it. And we got you. If that's the only reason, I think you should be a role model for people when you step up. You know, that you're doing it for your community. And no, that was low. I'll stop on behind.
Okay.
Well, it's okay for me. I accept, but please don't miss the meeting. I'm going to be in trouble.
Very good. So the motion.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
No, wait
No.
a second. Mr. Chair, do we still have, are we considering other candidates besides, I'm sorry, Kennedy, Roaz?
Rodas.
Roaz?
Rodas.
Rodas,
Yeah.
excuse me, besides Rodas. So we have 2 to consider, is that correct?
Was this a motion?
There's no motion on the floor
no
yet. I
motion
think
on the
you're
floor
having
right
some
now.
discussion about who
Yeah.
might be willing to do it.
Yes.
And I think Committee Member Locks is correct. I think if there's anybody else who's interested, now would be the time to, raise your hand and say that, or if there's somebody else who wants to propose somebody else, so then the committee's aware of who wants to do it, who doesn't want to do it, and then somebody can make a motion and see if it flies.
Chair, I will say I don't want to protract this. If it is the will of the committee that they would like me to be vice chair, I would be happy to accept it. I just wanted to express what my long-term plan was.
You're now making chaos here.
I'd like to comment as well. I appreciate my fellow board member out here to nominate me, and I appreciate that. But I think I do have to acknowledge that as a new member, this is still a new process for me. Taking a role like that might be a bit of a risky move. I do think I could handle it, but I would also, and I wanted to abstain from doing any sorts of recommendations because I am fairly new. However, from what I've heard, I think Ms. Ruiz would be an excellent candidate as well.
Chair,
I
can I
want-
make
Okay.
a comment? Do you mind a clarifying comment? I just want to
Yeah.
make sure it's clear that for Ms. Member Ruiz, that if she were to express interest and want to be the vice chair, if that were her express wish, that she could run the meeting in Spanish, and that we would have English interpretation for those of us that do not speak Spanish, so that you could feel confident in running the meeting in your native language.
Absolutely.
And maybe my wife, who is working hard to try to learn Spanish, would be encouraged to come to the meetings if you were the chair. I'm just throwing that in.
Oh, wow. I just want to,
So-
I'm sorry, because today I asked Darlene if she wanted to take that role, and she said no, because she explained why. But I really want, he said that you have a lot of people that are gonna help you and guide you, and so I think you should, you said yes already, so now the vote needs to take place. But yeah,
So we need a motion. We need a motion so we can move forward.
I move that Ms. Ruiz be vice chair.
So there's a motion to move Member Ruiz to be the vice chair. Any seconds? Any seconds?
Chair, I'll second that motion for Ms. Ruiz.
Motion and second.
Thank you. I'll now take the vote. Member Alm?
Aye.
Member Nguyen?
Aye.
Member Kamina?
Aye.
Member Rodas?
Aye.
Member Ruiz?
Aye.
Vice Chair DeViti?
Hell yeah, hi.
Chair Tokalahi?
Aye.
Congratulations, Vice Chair.
Daniel, you're in line.
Daniel.
Okay, congratulations to our new chairperson and vice chair. So our next meeting, which will be next year. Yeah. But I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, which is 4C.
Sorry. My presentation will be even shorter than the last one. I will submit on the report. Staff mirrored the same schedule from 2025 to 2026, and we submit it on the staff report.
Thank you.
Looks like you're all reading, so
Right.
really quickly. So we have a workshop or a meeting in Saturday, January 10th. That's where you're going to determine what will be talked about in 2026, and then we'll be in session January through June. Last year we elected to take July off, so we just mirrored that, and we also mirrored the month of December to have off. So. January through June, and then August through November.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I do have some comments to make about the schedule.
Yep.
You're recognizing me. Okay, thank you. First of all, I think our next agenda item is the annual report. And I feel that we need to really give the annual report some this adequate amount of time for discussion. And I don't want to really jump into a calendar and a plan, basically because I don't want to do a Saturday and 2 January meetings. And last year, we only did that because there was problems with translation. And I'm recommending that we actually meet in December because we did not do any work in September. And therefore, I would like for that consideration so that we have a meeting, not like this one, but which is jam-packed, it's a very ambitious agenda. And we're filling in a lot of stuff to end the year. That's why I recommend that December be considered a meeting time for us to just focus on our dates of meeting and work on the plan. I feel that that's a prudent thing to do and a wise thing to do. And I'm feeling that as we are going forward and are taking on more and more responsibility, this needs to be considered. We did nothing in September. We could have worked on this in September. We could have approved the dates in September. We could have done a lot of things. And so that's what I want to put forward and for people to think about it. Why do you want to meet on Saturday in December?
So the recommendations is to have the scheduled meeting in December.
Yes, so we can talk about the annual report now.
Chair Tokalahi, can I just remind you, this
Yeah.
is a time for questions and then public comment and then discussion and comments.
Oh, absolutely.
Any other questions from members?
Yeah, I have a
Valdez.
question. I joined online when you were doing the interviews for the new members, and I don't remember who, I'm sorry, but someone said that the meetings could be changed place.
The what?
Our meetings could change.
I don't know. I was not on any of those meetings. You're talking about the interviews for the new pack? Yeah.
No.
I wasn't on those.
think
Through
that-
the chair.
Someone commented some, but I'm not like 100% sure.
I was present for the interviews, and I don't recall a change in meeting location as part of that discussion. We did ask about people's availability to meet and things of that sort, but nothing about the location that I recall. And I know that Member Camina was there as well during those, and
It was.
and Member Locks was there as well, and I don't recall, and I would defer to them if they remember any discussion about change in meeting location.
I don't think it was like mentioning, but something around that. But yeah, thank you.
Well, are you suggesting that we have our meetings in a different place? Is there a thought you have?
No, just like came to my head now, but yeah. But we discussed before about that, but I think this is like the good place to have the meetings. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a clarification. I would like clarification of what you're saying. Are you saying one of the candidates made that statement?
No, to be honest, I don't remember, and I'm sorry that I'm
Oh.
like getting this longer, but I had like a vague memory about, not that we were gonna change the place, but I think someone said at the moment, the meetings are held at the city council chambers. So maybe that like is what I recall, yeah, for the meeting, yeah. But no, it was not like one of the people getting interviewed or, yeah.
Okay.
I'll watch the recording, so.
Any other questions from any other members? I see none. I'm going to open for public comments.
Come on, Heidi.
We are looking at you.
I know. Because it's already 8 o'clock, I support Member Lox's recommendation to have a meeting in December since it was canceled without us knowing it was going to be canceled for September, and to meet in December. I think that would be the 10th, the second Wednesday. I don't know. And to go over the schedule and the annual report, which we clearly don't have time to do now, and it's a meaty one. So
that's it. Thank you. Any other comments? No, I'm going to close public comments. You have staff?
Chair, I just wanted to offer a suggestion to the committee in context of Member Lox's recommendation to have a meeting in December to have more time for the annual report. An alternative is that you could do this at your January, you could set the calendar for 2026 at the January meeting. You could determine the January date, and at the January meeting, you could then set the schedule.
And not next month.
Yeah, you don't have a meeting scheduled for next month. So I'm just giving you an option to consider, giving the committee an option to consider and discuss doing it in January instead.
Mr. Chair, I highly recommend what city manager is advising. I think we want to don't jump into it. We want to have a time where we set and we can kind of really go over it. So I'm agreeing with what you're suggesting, and that's a great idea.
Okay, so
I have a comment.
Comments.
It doesn't matter to me if we have a meeting in December or not, so that's not an issue. My thought was that the reason that we had a Saturday meeting could be longer when people didn't have to worry about getting home to their families, and we could really get into the report in more detail. And so for that reason, I like the idea of having an earlier time when we have more time, if people are available, but I don't have a major objection to doing it either way.
Okay. What about the other members?
I have a clarifying question for the meeting date in question. Are we working on annual report or work plan for the future year, or both?
So I'll jump in. So the items scheduled for tonight were intended to go tonight. I recognize that people are saying it's 8 o'clock and they want to reschedule. The January special meeting scheduled for the 10th was intended to identify subject matter for this committee to consider in 2026. That does not replace the regularly scheduled meeting on the third Wednesday of January. So there's a special meeting in January on a Saturday, and then the regular scheduled meeting third Wednesday. We discussed last year going dark in the summer for a break and going dark proximate to the holidays in December. So just to remind the committee, that was the structure. And I'll turn it back to the chair to make whatever decision this body chooses to make.
And just another point of clarification through the chair, and perhaps the city attorney can opine. In the board and commission bylaws, it says about adopting a calendar by December, and since we are dark in December, could we defer that decision to the January meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just help out. So right now, you guys have just the schedule on the calendar. If we could vote on that, we could recommend it. We want, that's the schedule we want for 2026. The next agenda item is the annual report. If you want to defer the annual report to a January meeting, then it's in your purview. We're mixing up agenda items, and I think it's getting confusing.
Mr. Chair,
hang on.
when we're saying if we're going to defer because we want to end the meeting, all the more reason to meet in December to go over what we're talking about. It supports meeting in December so that we start off in January, start off doing what we need to do, not still planning what we're going to be doing.
I don't know if staff availability for the December meeting. We set this 13 months ago, and I would have to confer with the rest of staff to see if everybody is available. The third Wednesday in December, I think, is December 21st.
17th.
The 17th.
Chair,
I have a suggestion, I think, to clarify. It would be really helpful, I think, for staff to have a very super brief 5-minute recess, give us a second to kind of think through what we're hearing, and then offer some suggestions to try to bring some clarity to what we're doing for the rest of tonight.
Yes, we'll do that.
You need to
We'll give
call-
you guys 5.
You need to
Yeah.
call for it,
We'll
if you
give
would.
you guys 5, and then we'll come back. Thank you. Are we ready to, yes. Okay, I think we're ready to continue. Oh. Are we all here?
We have one member who is out, but we do have a quorum right now, and so staff did briefly caucus during a recess, and we have a recommendation. You can continue the item tonight unless there is a motion that would be put forward on the floor, but just in the interest of time and expediency, just want to announce that that's an option that you can take to continue the item to the special meeting in January 10th at 9 a.m.
Okay.
So is that, just to elaborate, is that clear? So we don't have to have any more debate about the calendar. You could have your discussion about the calendar, how you want to set up your year at the January 10 meeting, and you can move straight to the discussion of the annual report tonight. Because, yeah, it's on the agenda. Everybody's ready to go.
It's on the agenda.
I think we got to move
Yeah.
forward. We were at a
Yeah.
council meeting till nearly midnight on Monday night. You guys can hang in there for another hour.
We can do this. We're going to continue on because we already set the schedule for January 10th and 21st. So I think we've done all the public comments. We closed public comments, stuff. We have comments from the committee members. How's our interpreters? Are we still with them?
Before we move to the final item on the agenda, I will toggle the interpreters.
Okay.
Thank you.
So right now, Chair, I'm sorry, right now, staff's made a suggestion that we punt the scheduling and not do it tonight. We just pass that item to January 10, and that you move straight to your conversation about the draft annual report. And so what I would suggest, Mr. Chair, is that you take comment from the committee to see how people feel about that suggestion. And if people like it, then
we'll continue on.
We'll continue that item.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll need a motion to do that, but why don't you take discussion about it first to see
Yes.
Whether people are interested in staff's recommendation.
Member Rodas?
I'll comment in support of staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Anybody else comments? About the recommendations from staff?
Happy to be in agreement with them.
Okay. Member Locks?
Yeah. So it is, if I'm understanding, the recommendation is to meet in January on Saturday, January 10th. Is that the recommendation? Okay.
Yes.
Although I do not have a vote in a motion, I stand by what I said previously, that I don't agree to having a special meeting in January. I would want to begin with January 21st. So I'm not in support of a special meeting, and that's what I hear is being put forward, to do a special meeting.
But
Member Locke, just to clarify, that was not staff's recommendation. Staff's recommendation.
Oh, that's what didn't you just say that?
So, staff's recommendation was in the spirit of time and trying to get to the annual report tonight. We defer the item on the schedule, the 2026 schedule, to the already scheduled January 10th special
January
meeting.
10th.
That has already been calendared. That's not a discussion item for this evening, as I understand it. So it's just whether we want to take this schedule conversation and have it on January 10th.
Or having it tonight?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry?
So it seems like January 10, we still keep that, and should we discuss for the next year, like Mr. Locke says December before, like I prefer December rather than the January's.
But you prefer, so you don't,
I mean, I prefer in special meeting in December.
in December?
It's just like Mr. Locke, but like it's already scheduled. So should we have a discussions in January 10 for the next 2027? Because it's already done, right?
The January 10th meeting
It's
is
already
set.
scheduled.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
already scheduled.
Yeah.
So we can change.
So you want to change that?
Just to be clear for the committee, the scheduling of meetings for staff that staffs the committee, it's a lot to switch it around. So it's hard because, there's a lot of people involved, but, staff has a lot of meetings going on every day. And so to kind of willy-nilly, like put them on, take them off, move dates, it creates a lot of problems for the city. So right now, we got a January 10 lined up. The staff's counting on that, expecting that. And the concept for tonight is that because there's a debate about how you want to do the meeting scheduling next year, you can defer that conversation. Francine's going to be there to facilitate it. And that on that date, you can then plan out your meeting schedule for 2026. And then you can move forward tonight with discussion about the annual report in the time we have tonight.
So I'll move for a motion to keep our schedule that we already scheduled for January, and then move forward to discussions of our annual report.
Do I hear a motion?
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Then I would need a second.
Need to state the motion.
He did mistake the motion. Are you seconding it?
The motion's been sufficiently stated. There's clarity. I've said it twice what needs to happen. Committee member Kamina adopted the language that I made, and if there's a second, I think there's enough clarity on the record.
You second.
Any seconds?
So you have to second.
Okay, I'll second
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll continue on.
Member Alm?
Aye.
Member Kamina?
Aye.
Member Nguyen?
Ayes.
Member Rodas?
Aye.
Member Ruiz?
Aye.
Vice Chair DeViti?
Aye.
Chair Tokalahi?
Aye.
We will move this discussion to January.
Thank you. And now we're going to continue on to our last agenda item, which is our annual report.
Good evening. Included in your agenda packet is the draft, just to clarify, this is the draft annual report, as this was our last scheduled meeting for 2025 and we still had new business. The draft annual report summarizes your committee work over the past year. It also highlights your key accomplishments and documents the progress of the PAC. Pursuant to your bylaws, Section 1.3, the committee is responsible for preparing an annual report that reflects its activities and recommendations. The purpose of tonight's review is to ensure that the draft accurately captures the committee's efforts and reflects both your individual and committee recommendations before it's finalized. Following this initial discussion, the final draft will return for the committee's review and approval at the regular meeting in January of 2026, prior to being presented to the City Council in early 2026. I do thank you for your continued work and commitment throughout this year, and I am available to answer any questions on the draft annual report.
Thank you. We'll come back to questions from committee members. Member Alm?
I have no questions. I have comments I'll reserve.
Okay. Member Kamena, do you have any questions
I have
about
no
the annual
questions, but
report?
I will have comments later. But other than to thank Ms., I want to say Olson, Komoda, I'm sorry, for all your work. Thank you.
Member Ruiz? Thank you.
I don't have any comment. But Teresa, thank you so much for, I told you when we came. Thank you for the chair.
Member Nguyen?
Oops, I don't have
Yep.
any questions.
Questions? No?
No.
Thank you. Member Rodas?
No questions.
No questions, thank you. Member Valdez?
Yes, I have a question. In page 3 of the report, we have like repat twice. Page 3, yeah.
So if you recall, during the work plan, our special session workshop that we had in January of this year, where we only focused on the priority topics, there was an initial tie. And those two items that then went for a second round of vote were RIPA and police wellness. So that's why you see that on there twice.
Okay.
So that was the tie-breaking vote.
Okay, thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
Vice Chair?
No, no questions.
No questions? Member Locks? I got you.
I don't have any questions, I reserve my comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna open up for, invite public comments.
I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on.
Sorry.
And I don't have any questions, but I do have comments.
Thank you. We'll come back to you guys. Public comments, sorry, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tara. I'm speaking regarding the annual report item. I find it important to say that in order for the City Council to properly consider the PAC's May 21 recommendations, the annual report must accurately reflect the purpose, substance, and evidentiary basis for the recommendations. The draft annual report fails entirely in all of these regards. Looking at the pretext stop recommendations, for example, the report fails to mention the significant racial disparities in these stops. Number 2, the ineffectiveness of the stops as a law enforcement tool. For example, more than 95% of the SRPD pretext stops find no evidence of criminal conduct, as well as the statistical proof that eliminating SRPD pretext stops would reduce total black stops in SR by almost 18%, which we reported on. Instead of addressing the data and presentation that form the basis for PAC's 4 recommendations, this draft annual report tries to undermine the recommendations by emphasizing the illegitimate findings of the unlawful working group. That working group consisted of Lieutenant Eberly, Fatai, and Paula Camina. That group purported to repudiate 2 of the PAC's recommendations in their entirety and offered a distorted reinterpretation of the remaining recommendations that deprives them of their meaning. Before the next PAC meeting in January, MV Free will provide a revised draft of this section of the annual report to accurately reflect the substance, as well as the evidentiary basis for the May 21 recommendations that we had already made. We hope you'll take the time to consider the proposed revisions before signing off on the erroneous and misleading version that's before you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy Edmondson, still from MV Free, on a similar issue. The section of the draft annual report that refers to the so-called RIPA working group reflects an unlawful and inappropriate scheme to undermine the PAC's legitimate final recommendations from May 21st and must be stricken. You've all received MV Free's complaint to the City Council detailing the behind-the-scenes effort by Lieutenant Eberly and the RIPA Working Group to reopen and repudiate the PAC's 4 May 21st equitable policing recommendations. As shown in that complaint, neither Lieutenant Eberly nor the working group, nor even the full PAC had the legal authority to reopen and challenge the PAC's final recommendations after the conclusion of the PAC's May 21st hearing. Any report or findings from that unlawful effort are therefore wholly illegitimate and have no place in the PAC's annual report and must be excluded. That working group compounded its misconduct by creating and operating the working group behind closed doors without the knowledge, consent, or participation of the full PAC. This violated the PAC's collective decision-making authority and the public's rights under the Brown Act. And finally, the group concealed and misrepresented the true purpose of the working group from the full PAC, knowing that the PAC would not support its impermissible attack on its final vote. Chair Takai told the PAC that the working group was established to, quote, advance progress on the recommendations, which is the opposite of what was actually intended, and which would have been a permissible purpose for a working group. What you undertook was not. The PAC has a duty to protect the integrity of its decisions, its operations, and its reports. The PAC must, therefore, remove all references to the illegitimate working group and its purported findings in the annual report.
Thank you.
I agree with the previous two comments, and I, in 2 minutes, can't possibly say all of the little edit parts, but I wanted to start on page 8, where Member Ruiz requested the most common violations and reasons for stops for Latinx drivers, which we will remember was really high. The reason that she requested that was to do education to the community to prevent them from being pulled over. That's what I heard her say at that meeting. And I also heard that as a reason for not stopping pretext stops was that there were safety concerns with mechanical violations. And so I think, since we talked about transparency and trust tonight, it would be amazing for the police department to do brake light clinics. If they're so concerned about mechanical violations on cars that they need to pull them over so we're all safe, why not build trust with the community by fixing those violations and preventing those people from being pulled over? I also agree that the section on the secret committee that was working on pulling back the equitable policing recommendations is really bad look. It's like the longest section in there. And the people that were on the committee were the one person, and committee member Kamina told us last time, she was the one person who voted against ending pretextual stops. Member DeViti, who wasn't even there to hear the presentation at the May meeting, and then Chair Tokolai, who worked with Lieutenant Eberly to form that committee. If we're talking about transparency, that's the opposite of transparency. That's something this committee did in partnership, I see your smirk, Fatai, in partnership with the police department that was not transparent. And now it's showing up in this report as if it's legitimate. I also want to say again, I hope that when you make a work plan, you're going to ask them to come back and report on the drones as first responders that they promised the Canal neighborhood would increase safety, and make them prove it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also second the previous 3 comments that were made. I just want to say it looks shady. You know, y'all voted on something back in May, to take these recommendations, and then a secret meeting is held, and then y'all come back and have a completely different story to tell. And I mean, like I said, it just looks shady. It's not a good look, from the public's eye, and it undermines transparency, it undermines accountability, and it completely undermines trust.
Thank you. Any other comments? I see no other comments. No. Thank you. I'm going to close public comments. Any response from the staff? If any? Nope. I'm going to come back to the committee for comments. I'm going to start with Member Alm.
I share the community's concern the work group report on the RIPA work group report is entirely too weighty for this annual report. I disagree with how much it's been given. I would like to see it reduced and not have so much weight. At the minimum, the very last paragraph where no formal action was taken by committee following the working group update, I would like that to be the priority statement at the opening of that. That versus that being ending, because I feel that it's important that council sees that first. Respectfully, my data requests are very important to give context in be it counter or otherwise, and I think it's important that we get those by some time for the annual report. Because I would like to see the data in a different viewpoint than what was presented. And all of that was already submitted to staff. Secondly, in my personal opinion, this is the committee's report. And I'm a little bit dissatisfied with the SRPD response being a part of this report, and I feel it should be an appendice. I can accept the status of our recommendations, but again, I don't want SRPD's response to be a part of our report. Again, I feel that should be an appendice.
Thank you. Member Comena?
I don't disagree with what Member is saying and the other comments. I would just like to say in regard to the secret meeting that I am the one who asked for the meeting for the working group. I sent an email to staff and said, since this has passed, I think it needs clarification. And that's how this started. We discussed it with the city attorney. It was not a violation of the Brown Act because there wasn't a quorum. We invited the chief to give us some information. As with the juvenile group that the group that has that Mr. Alma's involved in with the youth member, the whole committee did not say let's have this. One person suggested it, and the chair appointed, and then a report was made. It was done in the exact same way. So I'm happy to say that I think Ms. Komoda has done an excellent effort in making this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Nguyen, do you have any, no comments? Member Rodas?
No comments.
No comments, thank you. Member Ruiz?
No comments.
No comments. Member Valdez?
Yes, I want to also thank, I need to read the last name too, because this was like, for me, it was like a lot of information, like resume. And I think I wasn't here at the last two meetings. I was watching online, and I think this thing about the working group is like getting like long and long and long. And I understand and I appreciate what MB Free is trying to do, because they are trying to helping us or like guide us on how to do this on a what we consider a better or not a better way. And I think that's those are my only comments, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Member Locks?
A comment. L comes after V. I didn't know that. He didn't catch it. Okay, never mind. If you're doing the alphabet, that's what I was wondering, if you're doing the alphabet.
I wasn't doing the alphabet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All righty, okay. All right. My first comment, I agree with the comments that have preceded me. And I do feel like if I was a city council person and was reading this, that what the working group's activities did or did not do stands out more than how we have outlined what the full committee's recommendations were and going forward. So I do agree with what was said previously. But I want to direct it to page 12, where it speaks about comments that I had made, and I wasn't here to comment on corrections for the minutes. And I believe the minute statements are the same as the statements here in the annual report. And what needs to be added to that was that I had said that I was working to have a member who is a NACOL speaker present for speaking to our committee sometime in the next year. And that statement's not here, even though there was great effort by the staff to send an email naming her, and naming who the Stanford professor was, naming, putting information out about her, and stating in the effort of equity that we all had that information. I wasn't putting it, but the fact that that's not even stated anywhere, I find that needs to be corrected in some fashion, at least what I said, but I don't know if we want to add what you sent out.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
No comments.
Okay. What?
I'm sorry, I forgot to say one thing, which is that I don't agree that the information provided by the working group should be deleted from the report.
Yes, Member Locks.
Okay. If we're going to have subsequent comments, then I would support what Member Alm said, that it should be more summarized if it's to be remaining. I don't know that it should be deleted because it was activity that did occur, and I feel activities that did occur should be presented. But I think it needs to be, it needs to have less importance in the document. It needs to be a smaller portion, or equal portion to all of the other things, and I feel like it's out of proportion.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else? What about the staff? Anything? No? I see none.
Yeah, I think the staff's heard the feedback, and if I understand the process, staff will take the comments of the committee and go back and work on it and then bring it back in January for adoption. And if there's further amendments that the committee wants to make when it receives the final proposed report, there can still be edits made at that time if necessary. But hopefully, with the comments, the next draft you see will be one that you're prepared to adopt without any change. So, Scott, does that summarize?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here.
And I think that's it. I wanted to thank everyone, the community members who are still here with us tonight. And if you're listening online, thank you for paying attention. Thank you, members. That's it for the year. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I do it one last time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your leadership this year. Appreciate it.